Welcome to Thriller Vault. Tonight I have a funny and thought-provoking story about a group of shipwrecked people who attempt to create a government to save them from the dangers and hard work of island life. Here is the Island Bureau of Kindness. Once upon a time, 6 people were shipwrecked on a deserted island. They all worked to ensure their survival. They hunted, fished, gathered, built shelters and infrastructures. Quickly, they figured out that some of them were better at certain things than others. Kate was great at fishing, so she fished for everyone. Henry the hunter could trap just about anything, so he did the bulk of the hunting. Billy was a butcher, so he prepped all the meat. One person, Craig, didn't have many skills, so he did whatever was needed, like cleaning up and collecting firewood. Alice was a botanist, so she gardened and collected wild edibles. Finally, Joe and Oscar were great at building, so they constructed and maintained the huts, latrines, and water collection systems. The islanders developed a barter system to exchange skilled and unskilled labor for the different products that they produced. One day, Alice tripped over a piece of driftwood and sprained her knee. It was a bad sprain, and she couldn't work for a month. She didn't have much surplus, so she was destitute and starving in a couple of days. Her fellow islanders pitched in and completed her farming and foraging chores. They gave some of the food to Alice, so she didn't starve. Alice was grateful and vowed to pay everyone back for their generosity. A few weeks went by, and Alice went back to work. She worked extra hard to repay everyone on the island, but Joe was especially bothered by the fact that their lives were so fragile, that something as simple as tripping over a piece of driftwood could cause them to starve. He called a very important meeting. "We need a safety net in case we get sick or hurt, like Alice did last month. Also, I don't think it's fair that Craig has less than everyone else. I know that we don't really need him to clean up and that anyone can collect firewood, but he's poor in comparison to the rest of us. I think we should have an organization that can help people like Craig, and also to help anyone who can't work."
I think that's a good idea. Alice could have died if everyone didn't help. I've always felt guilty that Craig doesn't have as much as the rest of us.
But I didn't die. You all helped me when I needed it the most, and I paid you back when I was able. We don't need to create some bureaucracy to help each other. Besides, where do the resources come from to support this?
"We could give 10% of our harvests and labor, except for Craig, of course. Through this savings program, Craig wouldn't be poor, and we don't have to worry about getting sick or hurt."
Who would do all the collections and storage of the goods?
"The building projects are slowing, so I could handle it. I would need to be paid the skilled labor rate for my time running the organization, of course." Joe called a vote to determine whether or not to start the organization. Alice was the only islander who voted against it. The islanders named the organization the Island Bureau of Kindness, or IBK. Joe turned up every week to collect 10% of their harvests. Joe and Oscar built a hut for the IBK to store the surplus. The islanders' huts leaked in the rain because the builders were busy building the IBK hut and had let the regular repairs slide. The islanders survived despite 10% less of a harvest, although everyone was a little skinnier, except Joe. Joe was sporting a spare tire around his waist. Everyone wished he would put on a shirt. Craig received a small ration to lift him out of poverty. It was just enough to keep him alive, so he stopped cleaning and collecting firewood. After all, cleaning and collecting firewood was beneath him. He told himself that the other islanders were oppressing him. Joe was the only one who actually cared about him. Everyone else was greedy. The skilled islanders had to spend time collecting firewood and cleaning, and this caused food production to decline. Shortly after the IBK was established, Billy the butcher cut his hand. He wrapped it in a bandage and refused to show anyone the wound. He just kept telling everyone that he couldn't dress the meat anymore, and he didn't know when his hand would heal. There was not enough of a surplus in the IBK to pay for Craig, Joe, and Billy the butcher, so Joe called another meeting. "Unfortunately, we'll have to raise the payment for the Island Bureau of Kindness. With Billy the butcher getting hurt, we need 20% of everyone's harvest. Good thing we started the IBK, otherwise we'd be screwed."
I'm hungry all the time. I can't give anymore.
"You don't know the first thing about hunger, you greedy elitist." Hold on, guys. Once Billy the Butcher gets better, we'll be fine. We have to sacrifice for the greater good. 6 months later, Alice snuck up on Billy the Butcher and saw him using his hand as if he were perfectly healthy. Alice agreed not to expose his lie if he would simply go back to work. Billy went back to work, but the kindness payment stayed at 20%. Alice's stomach rumbled as she tended the island gardens.
This is crap. I'm done. I'm not going to pay anymore.
The next day, Joe showed up with his belly jiggling to collect Alice's kindness payment.
I'm not paying. You can stick your IBK up your butt. If you want my fruits and vegetables, you can barter for them like before.
But we voted to do this.
I didn't vote for it, so I'm not paying for it. Fight the power.
The next day, Joe returned with Oscar. Joe and Oscar were big men with large muscles. Alice was malnourished and weak. Alice tried to stand in their way, but the builders pushed her aside and took all of her harvest.
Hey, that's mine!
This is to pay for yesterday and today, plus a penalty for your disobedience. Alice was very hungry for the next few weeks until another harvest ripened. She wanted revenge, so she devised a plan. She dug a secret root cellar in the jungle. Over the next year, she worked extra hard and stored root crops in the cellar. She was very skinny, but she was saving up for something big. Then one day, when Joe showed up to take 30% of her harvest, they had raised the payment again. Alice didn't have anything for him. She had everything in the secret root cellar.
I'm not feeling good. I can't grow or forage any more food.
Joe's jaw dropped.
When do I get my kindness payment?
Joe called an emergency meeting and tried to raise the payment to 60%, but it would mean that everyone would starve to death. Kate the fisherwoman, Henry the hunter, Billy the butcher, and even Oscar begged Alice to go back to work.
You have to work. If you don't, we'll starve.
I'll work, but I will not give my harvest to Joe anymore.
Now hold on a second. We need to fund the IBK. Joe's right. Don't you want to be kind?
I'm not working then.
It was a stalemate. Over the next few months, Alice didn't work and survived on the meager ration from the IBK and her secret root cellar. The island was bleak. Everyone was starving, except Joe, although even he was losing weight. With tensions high and death right around the corner, Alice called a meeting.
I'll work again, and I'll provide food to get us all back on our feet if we agree to abolish the IBK and never take from each other ever again, even if the majority votes for it.
Stop being so selfish. Don't you want to be kind?
I'm selfish? You're the only one on this island who isn't skinny. I wonder why that is.
What are you trying to say? I'm naturally big boned.
Big bone my butt. You've been stealing food from the IBK root cellar.
I have not. All the islanders eyed Joe suspiciously. You do look a little chubby.
Look at those love handles.
I saw him taking some coconuts out of the root cellar for himself. The islanders surrounded Joe. Now wait a second. All I ever did was try to help. It's all about being kind, right? The islanders had a feast with Joe providing a much-needed protein source, and they never stole from each other ever again. Thank you so much for watching Thriller Vault. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all next week.